Members, officers and members of the public, welcome to this meeting of East Staffordshire Planning Committee on Tuesday 28th of October. We'll just start off with some housekeeping rules before we move off into the agenda. So the first one is to remind everyone present that the meeting is being broadcast live via YouTube and the recording will be archived for future viewings. And could I ask all councillors, members of the committee, officers, to ensure that when they speak, you speak and press your microphone on, and obviously when you finish speaking to make sure you turn it off so the live stream focuses on the individual speaking. A reminder for every member officer to turn off their mobile phones or put them on silent. We're not expecting any test fire alarms today, so if you do hear the fire alarm, it will be the live call, so back out onto the car park where we came in. Polite notice to members of the public not to call out when individuals are speaking, as it will prevent others from hearing the debate. And I'll be the chairman for the meeting, Councillor Arshad Afsar. If I can just ask from my right side, if you could press your mics and introduce yourselves before we move on. Thank you.
Lisa Bird, Principal Planning Officer for the South.
Alan Harvey, Principal Planning Officer.
Monica Holton, Councillor for Burton and Eaton.
Mick Huckabee, Councillor for Branston.
Good afternoon, Michael Slater, Councillor Horlingham and Outwards.
Hello, Councillor Sheila McKiernan for Shobnall.
Good afternoon, Alison Legwood, Councillor for Stapenhill.
Councillor Bev George.
Colin Whittaker, Councillor for the Blythe Ward.
Jackie Jones, Councillor for Neatwood.
Councillor Chris Smedley for the Dove Ward.
Councillor Liz Bullock for Stretton.
Emily Thomas, Democratic Services Officer.
Daniel Coulter, Trainee Solicitor.
Akil Abdan, Principal Planning Solicitor.
Thank you. So now we move on to the agenda itself. So agenda item number 1. Are there any apologies for absence? No, I've had an indication we have no apologies for absence. Agenda item number 2. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Councillor Sheila McKiernan, I just declared that I was Cabinet support for regeneration for a period from 2023 to 2024, but it's 18 months since I've been involved and I've not seen any plans until we've got the most recent ones. Also, I am married to Mr John McKiernan, who's chair of the Town Deal Board, but I'm advised there's no pecuniary interest there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Yeah, just to asking the question if, because of this, obviously the connection with the SBC, whether there's any special dispensation we have to sort of declare at this point of the meeting for all of us.
Thank you. I'm not aware, but I will ask for legal just to make a statement.
Yep, no, that's fine. No, there's no dispensation required. I think it's taken as given that the members are members of the authority. The authority is the applicant as well, but that's a separate role which you're undertaking as planning committee members today.
Councillor George.
Yeah, similar to Councillor McKiernan, I was on Cabinet when this was first brought forward, which is over 2 years ago, so just thought I'd mention that.
Thank you. Do we have any further declarations of interest? No. Moving on to agenda item number 3. Can I propose that the minutes from the last meeting held on the 23rd of September be held as a true account? Can I see a seconder, please? Councillor Whittaker. All those in favour, please. Show of hands. Thank you for clarification. That's everybody. Agenda item number 4. Do we have any urgent business to be brought to the committee's attention? No. Sorry, was it a no? No. Yeah. No, we don't have any urgent business. Moving on to agenda item number 5, applications for planning permission to be considered. So we have one application before us today. Planning application P20250024, the redevelopment of the site, and planning, sorry, two applications, and planning application P20250025, listing building application for internal and external alterations, High Street, Burton-on-Trent, DE141JZ. I'll pass over to the planning officer to present the case.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, as the Chair has mentioned, it relates to the High Street project in Burton-on-Trent. The proposals are quite extensive, and the site comprises Bass House, Town House, Trent House, the Water Tower and Carling House. Proposals are for the redevelopment of the site to include the use of Bass House as a brewery heritage museum, archive centre and visitor experience, the use of the Water Tower as an exhibition centre, and the use of Carling House as a hotel. Extensions and alterations are proposed to Bass House and the Water Tower, with alterations to the fenestration of Carling House. And demolition works are proposed in terms of the demolition of Trent House and elements of Carling House and Bass House, with the erection of a detached building to form the Washlands Visitors Centre. This includes associated landscaping, parking, public realm improvements, including public open space, with the plaza to provide event space. The listed building consent relates to Bass House and the Water Tower only, for extensions and alterations, including demolition of certain elements and internal works to create new openings and alter existing openings internally, and provide new lifts and staircases to facilitate the changes of use as referred to in the full planning application. Just for clarification, during the site visit this morning, there was a query in relation to the demolition of a chimney stack. This is not included in the application. It was planning history only, which is in the report. So it was from 1977. So the application site is shown with the black line on this plan here. The green indicates the listed buildings within and outside of the site, all of which are grade 2. The pink area shows the extent of the conservation area. A public right-of-way runs along this dotted line here, which sits just outside of the flood defence wall. The public right-of-way is number 8. You can see the River Trent to the east, which runs along here and splits with tributaries down there, along with there's the Gardens of Remembrance to the south and the wider Washlands area to the east. That does extend northwards and southwards as well. The Bargates mixed development is situated to the north of the site. Meadowside Leisure Centre is located here, and on the opposite side of High Street are various mixed town centre uses, with this being a secondary shopping frontage, and it includes offices as well as some residential. So we've just got a few aerial views which help to get the whole site in on an image. So this is just showing the site looking northeastwards, with Horninglow Road in that direction. And again, another aerial looking southwards. Each individual building are labelled on here so you can see where they sit in relation to each other. The proposed visitor centre would be situated approximately here. That's a view northwest, looking more towards the town centre. So that's Worthington Way and the car park, the rooftop car park, and Middleway Yard, where the cinema is. And again, this one's looking northwards. So the Trent Bridge is just out of view at the top, with the Bargate site there, which is under construction at the moment. So these just show some photographs on the next few slides showing various views along the roads externally outside of the site. So this is along High Street looking towards Horninglow Road. This is the frontage of Bass House, and you can just see Town House beyond. Again, this is Bass House, if I can get this to move, sorry. Bass House here with Town House beyond. The middle one shows a view of Carling House from High Street, and again of Carling House from High Street at the bottom, adjacent to the access point. These are views from Meadowside Drive, showing the view towards Carling House, which is currently obscured by the planting. Another view of Carling House and the one beneath it from Meadowside Drive, and then a wider view of the water tower with Trent House beyond. These are views from the Library Drive, where we went into the site this morning. So that's the side of Bass House. The library is just down here, and Trent House is beyond, with the water tower beyond that, which is demonstrated on the next image. That's an image of Trent House from the point of view of the library, and Trent House and the water tower together from the library. So Bass House frontage is to remain as it is, other than cleaning of that facade along High Street, and these just give a few more in detail photos of that building. So this is the corner from within the site, with the main entrance door being this one here on the side, and that's the elevation that we were looking at as well this morning on site, with the removal of the staircase, and that's the elevation where the extension is proposed. These just show some internal courtyard images from within the building. It's quite tricky to get into the smaller courtyard from within the site, and the photograph at the bottom is just an image of an example of the timber panelling that's currently present within the majority of this building. So this aerial view shows a close-up of Bass House, and allows me to demonstrate a little clearer where the demolition works are proposed. So it's this structure here. The staircase that we looked at this morning is here, and then it's just this little structure here in this courtyard. The fence and walls, which are obscured by a tree, those access gates are to be removed and replaced as well. So townhouse, again, no works are proposed to townhouse, but these are the views from High Street and within the site. And just aerial views showing that a bit more clearly in relation to those properties on specifically on the opposite side of High Street. So this is Trent House from within the site, and the details of the clock tower on Trent House, and just gives some different views of it from within the application site, and an aerial view of it just to give an indication of the form and scale of the building. So this is the water tower. The image is taken from the library. This image was taken from the public footpath, and then the smaller image in the bottom corner is from the High Street. So you can see that the water tower is still quite visible between the other application buildings. And then there's an aerial view of the water tower, as there is proposed to be a extension to the roof. So I thought it would be useful to include a visual of that. So these images indicate Carling House from within the site. It is quite tricky due to the shape and scale of the building to get everything on one image. So I've got some aerial images again of Carling House just to demonstrate the form and shape of it. The area to be demolished is this single-storey building here, which is up against the boundary to Meadowside Drive, where the conifer trees are. So in terms of the proposed site layout, as we've just discussed, the demolition is of this single-storey element here and of Trent House here. There's also the demolition works to Bass House, which was in this area here and just in the courtyard there. No changes to Townhouse. The demolition of Trent House in its entirety to create a plaza and landscaping. There would be pedestrian access to the washlands, as that was queried this morning, so there are pathways linking here to the wider pathways on the washlands. The site accesses, the vehicle accesses are in this point here, which is close to the Meadowside Leisure Centre, and one on the High Street here. They are already present on site, as members will have seen this morning. There is a separate area where there will be space for deliveries and servicing to Bass House in this area here. So the alterations to Bass House include the extensions. So the extensions are shown on this plan as dark grey. So the one specifically that we were looking at this morning was for this extension here, which will be visible from the public realm. There are also some small extensions to an internal courtyard to provide some access between existing parts of the building. Solar panels are shown on this area here. There will be alterations to the gated access and driveway. The archive entrance is proposed to be to this element of the building, with access to the heritage experience part of the building through the door on the side, and this area would be used as a cafe, sort of food and beverage area. So the extension to the rear is demonstrated on this plan. As you can see, it's a glazed extension to provide the food and beverage area. This was amended during the course of the application to retain the brick feature that we saw on site this morning, which is above it. So the canopy was dropped to allow that feature to be retained. And that just indicates the canopy to the side, and it does indicate some of the solar panels on the building. So in terms of demolition, I've included some floor plans. I've shown demolition plans and then floor plans. So the main demolition works are these areas here. I appreciate there seems to be a lot of red on the plan. And there are internal alterations to the building to create, specifically in this area, to create a flow through those rooms instead of having lots of smaller rooms. So the proposed floor plan, the blue indicates the visitor experience area, which is this area here. This is a temporary exhibition space with a pilot brewery and some education space. Food and beverage areas shown in pink, and the archive section in green. This indicates the first floor plan, and the external staircases to be removed, as well as opening up again of some of the rooms and taking out of parts of dividing walls. This area here was proposed to be opened up into one room, but we had some comments from Historic England, and that's been retained in that current plan form due to its previous use. So the proposed first floor plan, again, the blue is the visitor experience area, so that's quite a large portion of it. The red is education uses, and the green relates to archive centre. And the second floor plan, there's just some small elements of internal separating dividers being removed, with just an area of archive space in this area here. That's the only second floor area. So in terms of the Plaza and Trent House, the dotted line indicates where Trent House is currently positioned and is proposed to be demolished. The demolition would result in the creation of a public open space and plaza, which is proposed to be used for outdoor events with planting and pathways connecting to the wider site. The water tower is proposed to be extended as well. So there's a single-storey extension linked to the building with a glazed link, and a extension to the roof to provide a viewing area. So those extensions are indicated on this elevation, with the viewing platform at the top and the extension to provide a reception and foyer at ground floor level. There are some proposed changes to the windows on the first floor, which are currently louvres, and they would be replaced with windows to match the existing. And that just shows an alternative view. So in terms of demolition within the water tower, it's proposed to remove all internal elements from the water tower, as shown on that plan. And that would result in the creation of open plan exhibition space all the way up to the rooftop, where there would be a viewing platform accessible via the the glazed extension. The Washlands Visitor Centre is proposed to be situated between the Carling House, which is to the north, and the water tower to the south. This includes some coach parking here, and this area here is the turning circle for Meadowside, so you can see where it sits in relation to other buildings. This is proposed to be used by Staff's Wildlife Trust for education purposes, with provision for school visits, and would have a cafe area internally, along with classrooms, offices and meeting rooms. So this indicates the elevations for this building. The first one facing the water tower, this one facing the Washlands. This one facing this one facing Carling House, and this one facing Townhouse and Bath House. This is proposed to be finished in cladding with handmade tiles. So just an indication of the ground floor plan for the building, including plant equipment, cafe space, kitchen, etc. And then at first floor level, offices, meeting rooms and classrooms. Carling House is proposed to be used as a 121 bedroom hotel. We have sought some clarification in respect of parking from the applicant today, and I was advised that the area where this single storey extension was located, which is in this area here, would be where that's to be demolished. That would provide for the additional car parking spaces that would be allocated specifically to the hotel. The main entrance for the hotel would be in this location here, and the building that we stood next to earlier, while looking towards the one to be demolished, this one is to remain. So this just gives an indication of the proposed fenestration to Carling House, which includes new windows and spandrel panels along with solar panels to the roof. And again, that's just another view showing the north and east elevations. So in terms of demolition for Carling House, it's the demolition mainly of this single storey element here. There are some internal works, and a lot of this is edged red around the edge because of the replacement windows. The ground floor plan has obviously hotel rooms shown in orange, and then the yellow coloured rooms at the bottom are meeting rooms, with the blue areas being the restaurant, bar, kitchen, sort of circulation space in respect of that. And the plant room areas would be in this little detached building here and in this area here. So that's just the first floor plan showing demolition. That's the roof of the building to be demolished. And that's the proposed first floor layout. Again, hotel rooms in orange and storage or plant space in blue. And then the second floor plan, again, it's edged in red because of the changes to the windows. And that's the second floor proposed layout in terms of the hotel. So again, orange for the orangey cream colours for the hotel rooms and blue for the other areas. So in terms of landscaping, this plan indicates landscaping within the site. The area here is proposed to be used as the brewer's garden, which would be a more formalised garden space. The plaza is shown here with this little space there associated with the plaza, and then the remaining space around it here is the washlands garden, which is intended to be an extension of the washlands. There is planting within the site, and biodiversity net gain would be mainly off-site apart from any hedges within the site. So we did have some queries at the visit this morning in respect of trees. All the trees shown on the plan apart from those in red would be retained, so red are to be removed. So that includes all the hedging to the boundaries. There was a question about the trees adjacent to Bass House. The large trees would be retained, with some of the smaller ones in between being removed. So it's just the red ones to be removed on here. And then this indicates the new tree planting. The different colours are due to the different species of trees, but there would be 141 new trees within the site, which is excluding the BNG requirement. And we had some questions this morning in respect of parking. So again, the parking to this area here would be allocated, to this area here, doesn't want to work, would be allocated for the hotel. And that's where the data centre currently sits and is to be demolished. There is alterations to the parking at the library and Meadowside Drive. So there's currently some parking along here, and there's a different layout of parking within Meadowside Drive. This would be amended as part of the application. And then we've just included a slide to indicate that there is quite a lot of nearby parking, which is public parking spaces, within a short walk of the application site. So there's the Meadowside car park, there's the Middleway Park car park, there is the Worthington Way car park, which also has a rooftop parking space, and the Central Area car park, which also has a rooftop parking area. So in respect of consultation responses, the County Highway Authority had no objections subject to conditions relating to car parking and cycle spaces, access, construction management plan and a travel plan, and a Section 106 obligations in respect of the travel plan monitoring fee and links to the existing yellow cycle route. County Archaeology had no objections subject to conditions relating to an archaeological management plan to include a programme of archaeological works and level 3 building recording. The flood risk team had no objections subject to conditions relating to the detailed drainage design. County Archaeology had no objections subject to conditions and Section 106 obligations. So the standard BNG condition including a 30-year habitat maintenance and monitoring plan plus ecological enhancement measures, which would include swift boxes, sparrow terraces and bat tubes and boxes, along with the Section 106 requirement for the biodiversity net gain. The County Public Rights of Way team had no objections subject to an informative to draw the applicant's attention to the public footpath adjacent to the site. The Environment Agency had no objections subject to a condition to ensure compliance with the flood risk assessment. Natural England confirmed that they had no comment to make. The National Forest had no objections accepting the Washington's Visitor Centre in lieu of any Section 106 payments. However, this would be included in the Section 106 with a clause required in the event that the visitor centre is not provided, and that would secure any necessary off-site planting. Staffordshire Police had no objections subject to conditions relating to CCTV and surveillance. Historic England had no objections. The Wildlife Trust didn't object subject to conditions relating to evidence of a bat licence, lighting conditions to secure details, 6 bat roost features to the water tower, restriction of the use of breathable membranes which could be harmful to bats, bat and bird boxes to be provided, and works outside to bird nesting season. The Peak and Northern Footpath Society had no objections, similar to the county footpaths team, subject to an informative in respect of the public footpath. The Canal and Rivers Trust confirmed they had no comment to make, and Cadent Gas had no objection subject to an informative regarding gas infrastructure in the area. The British Horse Society, Inland Waterways Association and the National Amenities Society, which includes the 20th Century Society, along with the Ramblers Association, did not respond to the consultation. In terms of internal consultees, the Conservation Officer had no objections subject to numerous conditions relating to method statements for demolition works, samples of materials and panels, window details and door details, mortar mix, details of cleaning of the facades of the buildings, glazing to the water tower, new rainwater goods, roof lights, solar panels, plumbing, heating, venting, any new internal openings, lift details, signage, lighting, any fixings of ecological enhancement measures and repointing. The Environmental Health team had no objections subject to conditions relating to noise from fixed plant, construction noise, hours of construction, compliance with the air quality statement, submission of a dust mitigation scheme and contaminated land details, testing of imported soils, and an events management plan which was included in the update sheet. Burton Parish Council didn't, the Open Spaces team had no objections subject to an informative to advise of legal obligations. To advise in relation to Martin's Law, and the waste team wanted an informative in respect of legal obligations to do with waste. The tree officer had no objections subject to the tree plans being secured in the approved plans condition, and the emergency planners confirmed that they had no comment to make. Burton Parish Council did not provide any comments, and there were no comments received from ward members. In terms of neighbours, there were 4 letters of support and no objections. In the letters of support in principle were in relation to benefits to the town, regeneration and the creation of a much needed high quality hotel, proposals to build on the town's brewing history, being sympathetic to the history and heritage of the site, and securing a sustainable future for the listed buildings. The inclusion of cycle parking being seen as a benefit from a highways point of view, and any new buildings to include Swift bricks on ecology matters. The only other issue that was raised was the naming of the documents as Meadowside, which the comments indicated this was a little misleading and that the site be referred to as the old Brewery Quarter. However, it doesn't change the red line of the site, which includes the buildings on those plans. The policies used to assess the proposals are the MPPF, the East Staff's Local Plan, the East Staff's Design Guide SPD, the Brewery Buildings Conversion Design Guide SPD, the Parking Standards SPD, Climate Change SPD, Open Space, Waste Storage and Collection, and Tourism Technical Guide documents. So in principle, the site is located within a settlement boundary where development is usually expected, and is located on a secondary shopping frontage within the town centre. The use of buildings for tourism and leisure uses is considered acceptable in this sustainable location. In relation to the design and impact on character of the area, the development would result in minor impacts to the high street given the retention of the existing buildings, with minor external changes proposed to Carling House. The alterations and extensions to Bass House and the Water Tower are considered to be acceptable, appearing as modern additions. The demolition works proposed are considered to be acceptable, and the demolition of Trent House would allow for the creation of a plaza, public open space and events area. The proposed Washlands Visitor Centre would be well related to other buildings and of an appropriate scale and design. Landscaping is also proposed within the site, which would be an improvement over the existing large amount of hard standing. In respect of the historic environment, the proposal would bring 2 historic buildings back into a sustainable use with associated extensions, which are considered to be appropriate. The loss of some historic fabric within these buildings would result in some less than substantial harm on the heritage assets. However, in undertaking the planning balance, the public benefits of the scheme are considered to outweigh that harm. Overall, the proposals, including the demolition of Trent House, works to Carling House and the erection of the Washlands Visitor Centre, are not considered to result in any harm to the significance of the setting of heritage assets. Conditions are recommended in relation to archaeology. In respect of neighbouring properties, the separation distances to nearby residential occupiers are considered to be acceptable, with no adverse impact on nearby residents through the conditions that we've just discussed in respect of environmental health matters. In terms of sustainability, the proposals incorporate sustainable energy in the form of solar panels and air source heat pumps, with replacement glazing proposed to Carling House, and electric vehicle charging points are also proposed within the site, although that would fall within the provision of building regulations. The Highway Authority have raised no objection to the proposals, with the change in traffic patterns shifting from peak hours to off-peak hours. The site is sustainably located within the town centre with a variety of transport options available. And whilst there is a deficit in parking spaces within the site, there are other public car parks available within walking distance. Secure cycle facilities are proposed within the site, and a section 106 is recommended in respect of the travel plan and the cycle route. In respect of flood risk, the site is within a flood zone, with most buildings being considered less vulnerable in flood risk terms. Carling House would be more vulnerable as it contains sleeping accommodation. However, it does provide safe refuge at first floor level, and the Environment Agency raised no objections subject to the condition. In terms of drainage, the County Council Lead Local Flood Authority have recommended a surface water drainage condition, and a condition is also considered appropriate in terms of foul water due to the erection of the Washlands Visitor Centre. In respect of green infrastructure and national forest, a landscaping scheme is proposed, and whilst there are trees to be lost, additional planting is to take place. National Forest planting would usually be required. However, the National Forest Company confirmed that they would accept the Washlands Visitor Centre in lieu of this. In terms of biodiversity net gain, the applicant is targeting a 20% gain, the mandatory requirement being 10%, and the 10% is proposed to be secured via condition. Some of the BNG would be provided on site in the form of hedge units. However, the remainder would be off site and secured via a section 106. In respect of ecology, subject to conditions, there's considered to be no significant adverse impact. In relation to open space, the proposals are considered to be sympathetic to the adjacent Washlands public open space and would provide for additional open space, providing connections across the site and into the Washlands. In respect of pollution and contamination, the proposals will be acceptable subject to the conditions as set out previously. and the Section 106 development, the development is considered to be acceptable subject to the 106 agreement, which would include a travel plan monitoring fee, connections to the existing yellow cycle network, off-site biodiversity net gain and national forest planting in the event that the Washlands Visitor Centre is not progressed. In conclusion, the proposal complies with the local plan, the East Staffordshire Design Guide, the Brewery Buildings SPD and the aforementioned SPDs, along with the National Planning Policy Framework. The local planning authority has worked proactively with the applicant to secure a development that improves the economic, social and environmental conditions of the area in accordance with the requirements of paragraph 39 of the NPPF. And the recommendation, therefore, is to approve subject to conditions and a Section 106 agreement as per the report and update sheet, along with deferral of Section 106 enforcement powers to the County Council or another adjoining local planning authority, which is considered necessary given that East Staffordshire Borough Council are the applicant and wouldn't be able to necessarily enforce against themselves.
Thank you, Lisa, for that comprehensive report. I believe, and I've got no indication here of any speakers on this item from the public, so I'll open the floor up to debate committee members. So do I have any indication of any committee member wishing to lead the debate? Councillor Jones.
Question, Chair. A couple of times Lisa made reference to an update sheet. I'm not sure that we've seen the update sheet, have we?
It is my understanding there is no update sheet. I did question that at the start and there was no update sheet.
So that forms part of the application.
If I can ask for the planning officer to present the update sheet, please. If you can just read out the update sheet, please, for the benefit of the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Apologies, the update sheet was completed yesterday and it was understood it had been circulated, so apologies. So the update sheet is in relation to the planning application, reference Treblo 24, and the updates are in respect of ecology. The response by Staffordshire Wildlife Trust was received on Friday the 17th of October and didn't allow sufficient time for their recommended conditions to be assessed and included within the committee report. It's noted that the main report does indicate the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust had no objections subject to conditions, specifically conditions in respect of lighting, as a discussion had been held with the Wildlife Trust in relation to the inclusion of such a condition. The formal response from them recommends conditions in respect of evidence of a bat licence being obtained by the applicant, a lighting condition to secure the final lighting scheme, the provision of 6-number bat roost features within the site, restriction of breathable membranes which can cause harm to bats, the submission of an ecological method statement, the provision of bat and bird boxes within the site, and works to take place outside of bird nesting season unless a suitably qualified ecologist has confirmed that there is no evidence of bird nesting. The officer comment in respect of that is that the lighting condition now recommended by the Trust includes requirements for additional information not already included within condition 31 of the report, and therefore that is proposed to be amended accordingly. The county ecologist who originally commented on the application recommended a number of ecological enhancement measures, including bat and bird boxes. However, bat roost facilities at the water tower were not included and are now recommended by the Wildlife Trust. The recommendations on conditions made by the Wildlife Trust are considered to be appropriate and commensurate with policy SP 29 of the local plan, and therefore conditions 29 and 31 have been updated to reflect the comments of Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, and additional conditions are set out at the end of this update sheet. Furthermore, in respect of the Section 106 legal agreement, as the applicant is East Staffordshire Borough Council, it is recommended that any enforcement powers normally held by ESBC are transferred to Staffordshire County Council in respect of the obligations within that agreement. Consequently, condition 1 of the planning permission as it appears on the committee report would no longer be required. It is pointed out that there are no changes to the conditions in respect of the listed building consent application, with any works in relation to the ecological mitigation matters already being provided for by the existing wording of condition 21 on the listed building consent application. The officer recommendation, therefore, having regard to the matters addressed above, remains one to approve the application for planning permission, but with it being subject to the amended and additional conditions listed below under Section 106 legal agreement, and subject to enforcement powers being transferred to Staffordshire County Council or any other neighbouring local authority in respect of the Section 106 legal agreement. Therefore, the following amendments were made to the conditions. So condition 1 related to the transfer of enforcement powers, this is no longer necessary and will be covered by the 106 and is proposed to be removed. Some of the conditions have been renumbered with the removal of existing condition 1. It is proposed to renumber the existing conditions 2 and 3 as being 1 and 2, with these being the standard conditions on the commencement of the development and the approved plans documents respectively. A new replacement condition, number 3, a Grampian condition in respect of a bat licence is proposed, and that would read, no development shall take place in any phases or sub-phases until written evidence has been provided to the local planning authority of the granting of the relevant bat licence or licences by Natural England. And then there are amended conditions which the changes are highlighted in bold on this document. So condition 29 would be amended to include the wording 6 number bat roost features to the water tower, in addition to the other ecological enhancement measures proposed. The lighting scheme condition has been amended to include an updated lighting contour plan to be used to inform a sensitive nocturnal lighting scheme for during and post-construction works, and also to include the wording that the lighting scheme shall be designed in consultation with a licensed bat ecologist and should include the recommendations in the approved bat and bird survey report, along with the Bat Conservation Trust's guidance on bats and artificial lighting at night. There are also additional conditions, so a new condition 34 in respect of the restriction of breathable membranes, which reads, no breathable membranes shall be used in any part of the development/works hereby approved where there is a risk that bats will come into contact with that product. In respect of nesting birds, there is an additional condition number 35, which reads, no development shall be carried out within the bird nesting season, March to September inclusive, on any phase or sub-phase of development, unless a report has been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority to demonstrate that there is no evidence of birds nesting within that relevant phase or sub-phase. The submitted report shall be prepared by a suitably qualified ecologist based on a site inspection of the relevant phase or sub-phase of the development. If an active nest is found during development, all work shall cease immediately, and details of an exclusion zone comprising a suitable fence enclosure to provide an appropriate buffer zone to be specified by a suitably qualified ecologist shall be submitted to the local planning authority for approval in writing. The exclusion zone shall be provided in accordance with the approved details prior to any works recommencing, and therefore retained and maintained until the end of the bird nesting season, March to September inclusive, or until it has been demonstrated in writing by a suitably qualified ecologist to the local planning authority that the nests are no longer in use. And an additional condition, number 36, in respect of an events management plan for the use of the plaza to provide the public event space, which reads, there shall be no use of the plaza as a public event space as delineated on the approved plans list at condition 2 above, until an events management plan has first been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. The events management plan shall include details of all the following matters: a framework to ensure that any individual event does not exceed a 2,000 person capacity unless otherwise agreed in writing by the local planning authority, a framework for the management of all traffic entering and leaving the site, a strategy for identifying projected noise levels and any associated mitigation requirements, a framework for the provision of event start and finish times, including timeframes for setting up associated equipment, including associated vehicle movements to and from the site, and provisions for the monitoring of noise and activities in association with events, and for review and update to the events management plan in light of that monitoring to be agreed with the local planning authority. The approved events management plan, including any mitigation measures, shall be adhered to at all times in relation to the use of the plaza as a public event space unless otherwise agreed in writing with the local planning authority.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, do you want to come back?
Chair, that was quite a significant update sheet, really. I take it that whatever we're discussing or whatever we vote on actually is inclusive of that and all that information that that's just been read to us.
Yeah, that's correct. So it'll all be inclusive.
Okay, thanks.
Do I have any other member wishing to come in? Councillor Huckabee.
Sorry, thank you. Seen as the owner, the owner is pretty relaxed about exceeding certain minimum standards, the energy usage of this site, we talked about solar panels and air pumps and what have you. Is it going to be a self-contained unit with regard to its energy consumption?
Lisa, do you want to come back in there?
I'm not 100% if it's entirely self-contained, but it is. They are proposing to use the solar panels and the air source heat pumps for the majority of the heating source and the electricity for the building. So it would be the majority of it.
Given the growing importance of global warming and the release of carbon pollution into the atmosphere, would we look to provide the energy for the car charging and the air pump usage within the capacity of the solar panels? I understand the hotel might be a variable issue and it might need a little bit more detail, but if the site was contained with its regard to its energy, given the dirtiness of the national grid, there needs to be a benign balance in the pollution from this site. We have control of it, and as an authority we tend to think about setting standards and setting leads that other people can follow. Here we have an opportunity.
I was just going to make a little point on that, is that actually I think the one thing you could take away from this is the council has taken the opportunity, because this is a major enhancement over what has been there at the site previously. So these are all, as we saw, the plant room was being demolished and that's been replaced by air source heat pumps, and you've got the solar panels. So it's heading very much in the right direction, as opposed to whether the national grid, that's obviously beyond our actual remit. But as an authority, obviously there's a responsibility as well. But I think there is definitely, clearly an enhancement in terms of sustainable energy on the site.
But the answer to the question is not yet.
There's not a planning test in terms of whether it's going to be a self-contained generation on the site of solar energy, and otherwise what you've got is an enhancement over the existing situation. So from a planning perspective, that's what we're presenting. As an authority, I'm sure that it will go away and obviously take on board the point about, you know, wishing to enhance as much as you can, which obviously this is part of this project.
Councillor Legg.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask, please, about the glazing of the hotel? Because I did notice when we were on the site visit, you did say that they'd be replacing the windows. Could I ask that the glass in the windows be bird safety glass, please? Or do I need to condition it to ask for that? Thank you.
Sorry, we was just discussing that. The existing hotel has a significant proportion of glazing, and the proposal actually reduced the amount of glazing. So we don't feel it will necessarily be reasonable to condition it, given that the amount of glazing is reducing with panels being put in between the windows. However, if you were minded to, an informative might be more appropriate.
Okay, could I ask for an informative then for bird-friendly glass, as it is made mandatory in new builds?
Councillor Jones.
As we don't actually have, it's sort of related really, as we don't have an end user for Carling House yet, would we expect them, when we do have an end user, there to be a more detailed application come for some conditions like glass, glazing and the like? Or have we defined everything that's necessary for the operation of a hotel going forward?
So there's nothing to stop any future user putting in a separate application if they wish to do so. But what we are looking at before us today are the proposals, which is the layouts that we've seen today.
Okay, I can see that we want that to be in keeping with everything else that we've got. Yeah, I perfectly understand that. I just was hoping that we weren't going to be too restrictive in terms of, making it difficult to find an end user for that. But yeah, I take on board what you said. There were just a couple of other little things that I noticed when I was reading the report. Did I read that there would be parking for 2 coaches? Because that didn't seem like very many coaches, considering we're hoping that this is going to be quite a big visitor attraction.
The coaches are in respect of the Washlands Visitor Centre, so it would be school coaches usually. There's not a huge amount of floor space associated with that use. There are classrooms within the building, but it's quite limited as to the number of children that they could have at any one time, hence there being 2 coach parking spaces.
We don't expect to be promoting this to people using coaches to come and bring lots of visitors at any time.
It was my understanding that they were in relation to the Washlands Visitor Centre rather than the wider site.
So my point is really, are there none for the wider site?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Huckabee, did you want to come back in?
Yes, speaking about does this application include change of use? Because the hotel is not a hotel at the moment, it's an office block. So there would need to be a change of use permission. Is this included in this?
It is included in the description of the development.
Yeah. The other point, if I may, you indicated the car park at the development site 2 of Bargate's development. That potentially is a short-term existence, because if Bargate's 2 development takes place, that car parking space will be obviously full of buildings.
Do you mean the Meadowside car park? That's the bit I was between
Trentbridge and Meadowside.
So it was the Meadowside car park that I was referring to, which is currently pay and display. But it is a town centre location, and there are several other very large car parks in walking distance. Yeah.
Thank you. Do I have any indication? Councillor Whittaker.
Are we satisfied there's enough provision for public toilets if we're going to be asking sort of 2,000 plus people there for outside events? Is that taken care of?
The events management plan would cover the need for any additional facilities. So if they needed to bring toilets onto site for a particular event, that would be covered in that management plan condition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any indication of any further speakers? Councillor Whittaker.
Yeah, only to say it's quite an exciting plan. And, it'd be very difficult to oppose it in its entirety, because it's delivering a lot for Burton, which we've spoken about for a great number of years now. And it is reassuring to see it actually getting off the ground, and hopefully it'll bring some more prosperity to the town. Thank you.
thank you. So before we move forward, do we have any further speakers? I see any indication of anyone wanting to speak? No. So, right, moving forward. So thank you, members. And obviously the application before us is for the regeneration of the former Bass Brewery headquarters on High Street, a significant scheme, as mentioned, for Burton. The proposal, obviously, to convert the listed Bass House into a brewery heritage museum and visitors experience, the water tower into an exhibition space with a viewing platform, and Calling House into a hotel. Obviously, Trent House will be demolished to create a new public plaza, an event space, and a new Washlands Visitors Centre. You've listened to the officer's report. We've received 4 letters of support. No objections from statutory consultees. All technical matters, highways, flood risk, ecology and drainage have been pretty much satisfactorily addressed. So, moving forward with the officer's recommendation for approval for both the planning application. I'll put that in. Subject to obviously any agreements and informatives as been mentioned in the update sheet. Do I see a proposer to take this forward? Right, sorry.
Sorry, could you say, you just need to add the bird-friendly informative as well that Councillor Legg. Yeah.
Okay. So just to clarify, we'll be adding Councillor Legg's bird-friendly glass informative into the conditions and the update sheet. So moving forward, I have Councillor George put her hand up first to give an indication to approve, subject to getting the votes. So Councillor Jones, you'd like to second that, would you?
Certainly I would, yeah. I mean, there's a huge amount of stuff here. In fact, yes, I would certainly. There's an awful lot involved in this whole report and everything. And the fact that we've had no objections is just quite amazing, really. And it shows that there must be an awful lot of support out there for us to get on and do on with this project and just get on with it, to be honest.
All right, thank you very much for that. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. So can I see a show of hands for all those in favour of this application? Thank you. The vote is unanimous, so congratulations. The application has been approved. If any member from the public gallery would like to leave before we move on to the next phase of the agenda, you may do so now. Thank you. So moving on to agenda item number 6, can I request members to consider the appeals received and determined? Is that noted? Thank you, that's noted. Moving on to agenda item number 7, can I request members to consider the planning permissions circulated with the agenda? Is that noted? Councillor Whittaker.
Chair, can I just mention the fact that on the weekly list it seems to be rather out of date on the applications received coming through. For some reason, I don't know why, but...
Yeah, thank you. We'll make a note of that and make the planning manager aware of that as well. So that's been noted as well. So now we'll be moving on to the private part of the meeting. So if I can request the press and public to leave the room, that in accordance with section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting as it is likely in view of the nature of business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings that there would be disclosed exempt information as defined in paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, indicated in brackets before each item number on the agenda. So can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Whittaker. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you.